The next topic was boating safety and beach safety. This question came in. My 8-year-old is an excellent swimmer. Do we really need to wear life jackets when we're on the boat?
Well, absolutely. I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely they need to wear a life jacket.
Yes.
Because you can control what's going on your boat, but you cannot control what's going on in someone else's boat. And heaven forbid there's an accident and your child does not have a life jacket on and they sustain some type of injury where maybe they're unconscious. At that point, there is nothing to keep them from drowning in the water because you don't know what your status will be. And I'm not really familiar with the boating laws, but I do believe it is a law and requirement that every child on the boat have a life jacket. I know every person on the boat has to have a life jacket, but I believe the children all have to be wearing it. So I can tell you that my children always wore theirs, and my grandchildren will wear one when they're on the boat, just because, like I said, you're in control of what's going on your boat, but you are not in control of the water, the weather conditions, and what someone else on their boat or jet ski may be doing.
Right. And being in Florida, even some of our children and adolescents are boat drivers.
Yes.
And there's no minimum age for driving a boat in the state of Florida. However, they do have to have a boater safety education certification, which they can get at a boater's class or online. So that's also very important if our children are going to be operating watercraft.
Okay, excellent. Lori, can you tell us a little bit about how to fit a life jacket correctly? How do you know that you're wearing the right size?
Well, again, they have to be Coast Guard approved. And if you go to purchase a life jacket, they do come with age criteria on it. Of course, all kids are different sizes, so you would just have to make sure that once the child was in the life jacket, that it's snug, not too tight, but snug when it's buckled up, and it should always be buckled if they're going to wear it. It's like being on an airplane and being in your seat and having your seatbelt buckled. It also shouldn't be too much up around their neck. If the child is small, sometimes it works its way up. And young children really don't like to wear life jackets, so it's important that you get them used to it very early on. And in preparation for our Facebook Live today, I did look up the boating laws for children in life vests, and it's definitely under the age of 6. It's mandatory to wear a life vest, and as Rhonda mentioned, highly recommended because you never know what's going to happen, on the boat.
Can water wings be used as in place of a life jacket?
Absolutely not. It must be a Coast Guard approved life jacket.
And can you comment on what to do if you are caught in a rip current?
Okay. Well, my first suggestion is we have a lot of different waterways in Florida. We have the ocean, we have the intracoastal, we have canals, rivers. There's water pretty much anywhere you look, which is wonderful. We live in a beautiful place, but it also comes with risks. So the best recommendation is to swim in designated swimming areas. So if you're going to take your children to the beach, we have beaches that are guarded by professional lifeguards. And they're there not just to save someone in the water if they're in distress, but they monitor the weather, they monitor the currents and the rip tides, they monitor whether there's, the critters that live in the ocean are in abundance at the beach. And so when you get to those guarded beaches, you see the sign where the lifeguard keeps it updated all the time. So usually there'll be a warning there if the rip currents are too strong and swimming is prohibited. But if you're just not sure, you can tell where there are those rip currents because there's a line of water that looks darker. You can see the water breaking at certain points. And if a child or an adult, anyone, gets caught in a rip current, the recommendation is that you do not fight it because you can't swim to shore across a rip current, and all you will do would be just to get exhausted at that point. So you should really just kind of either float with the current or swim parallel to the shore until you feel the rip current let loose, and then you're able to make it to shore. Excellent. But again, as you mentioned earlier, if you're going to take your young children to the beach, they should always be within arm's reach so that you could grab onto them if you needed to.
Excellent. The next topic that came up were lightning storms. Where should I shelter during a storm? What are good places to shelter?
Well, you definitely want to get inside. You don't want to be outside. You do not want to get under a tree. Lightning is attracted coming down to the trees. It's going to hit the tree. You're under the tree now. You've been struck. So you definitely want to get yourself inside, even if it's in your car. So you go inside your car, sit in your car, just make sure you're not touching anything metal, just in case, your car were to sustain a strike, you're not touching anything in your car that's metal that could have the lightning come through. So Lori may have more to add to that, but.
Well, sometimes, we are in thunderstorm season right now, and thunderstorms pop up very quickly sometimes. If you're going to spend a day outdoors, especially at the beach, take a look at the weather and the radar before you go. So, there may be some forewarning that there are some thunderstorms that are going to be approaching. But if you do see some clouds, if you do see some lightning, if you do hear thunder, that is the time that you want to get out of the water, dry off, find a good shelter, as Rhonda mentioned. And really, when you hear thunder, there is lightning in the area.
Absolutely.
So even if you don't see the lightning or hear it. And the recommendation is that you don't go out of your sheltered area until 30 minutes after that last thunder.
Excellent. Another thing is that you want to avoid open places, the metal sheds, picnic shelters like we see at the beaches.
Absolutely.
And the baseball dugouts. Those are not safe places to shelter. Really get into your car.